everybody, it's Christy here at My Artful Adventures, and this is where we expand our creativity by using new ideas, revisiting old ideas, and maybe expanding on those, and making it easy, one step at a time. So on today's adventure, we're going to explore how to use a napkin for a project. And maybe you know how to do this and maybe you don't, and it's really kind of a fun technique. And it's just a paper napkin, and if you anywhere you go you see paper napkin, in the stores. It doesn't have to be plain old dinner napkins. We're looking for something that's got some kind of artwork on it. And so when you take that artwork, you've got an instant, you've got instant art that you can apply to something else. And the way that we're going to use this today, you'll find that you can apply this to almost anything. And maybe it will be a little bit different with you might tweak the method a little bit, or you might use a different kind of product to adhere it. But it's still pretty much the same. And so today it's just going to be a real basic look at how we accomplish that. So let's get started. So I've got what I'm going to put it on. I've got my napkin, and you need, today we're just going to use matte Mod Podge for this. And then just some kind of a brush that you can use to put your Mod Podge on your canvas. Excuse me. And then we need a chip brush. This is just a cheap brush. You can get these anywhere at the craft store. You can get them at the home improvement stores. They're just cheap. They have these little cheap wooden handles. This one is a 2-inch brush, so it'll cover a good amount of surface while we're using that. And I'm just going to use a little bit of water so that I can keep my brush wet after I put my glue on. A paper towel for my brush, some scissors for the napkin, and I think that's about it. So let's get started. First, let's take our napkin, and you can see these napkins almost always have 4 different sections. So whatever the artwork is in one corner, you usually have 4 pieces of that same artwork. And a lot of times it might be, now this one you can see is very directional. Now sometimes it might be floral, and maybe they come in towards the center. Maybe they come in from the corners and work their way to the center. So it's always different. It just depends on how it's been made. So I'm just going to cut one of these sections off. This is going to be pretty close to the size that I need. A paper napkin is usually 2 to 3 plies. I'm sorry, it looks like my camera just keeps trying to focus and kind of pops off and on there. I don't know what the problem is with that today. But we're going to just wet our fingers. So I've got a little bit of moisture here on my fingers, and we don't want it soaking wet. So kind of dry that off. But just hold that onto your napkin and see if you can't get that to grab hold and separate, which that one is not. What have I got on me? Of course, now that I'm trying to show you live, it's not going to work. Okay, no, it helped to separate those. So, and then gently pull them apart. And this one is coming off really good. So I've got that first one coming off. I won't have to do it again because I got my layer that I want to use. Okay, so I've got that. And don't throw these away, because you can use these for something else. Don't we always say that in crafting? Don't throw it away. And oh my word, that can get to be kind of a mess. Okay, so now, and I've just got a paper plate. You can take a little container and put something in your, that you can close, and just use that so that you don't have to use, this is a brand new jar, so that you don't have to dig right into your container, and you can keep it closed and it will last a little bit longer. So we're just going to put a little bit out here on the plate, but if you had something big enough that you could put your brush in or something, that would be great. And be sure and wipe these off, like if you're dumping it out like that, wipe it off before you put your lid back on so that you don't have your lid sealed shut. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're just going to apply this Mod Podge, and we're just going to put it onto the top. And a canvas has a little bit of texture, so make sure that you can, put that on there. And you know what you can do? You can just use your fingers if you want to. If you're gonna, whatever brush you use, make sure this is a brush that you're okay with. This is all it's gonna be for, because it can get kind of messed up and not really be good for painting anymore. So don't use a paintbrush that you're wanting to be able to still paint with, because you might not be able to use it again. So just cover it real good. And you know what? You can, if you use your fingers, I kind of like to apply some things like this with my fingers, because you can really feel where it is. You can tell exactly where you've put it and kind of how much is on there. I do that a lot with matte medium or things like that when I'm doing mixed media, because I can just feel where it is. Make sure you get it good along the edge, just the top edge. Okay, and now we're just going to take our little, so just put this kind of in the center, just kind of lay it down and just gently pat on it. And it doesn't really matter if you've got any, don't be worried that there's, maybe some little wrinkles. It's not going to be exactly smooth, perhaps. You might get it on there completely smooth, but if you don't worry about it. It just gives it a little bit more interest and texture. So we're just going to put that on there like that. Now we're going to take this brush and we're just going to pounce it. It's just dry right now. We're not going to put anything on it. And just pounce this everywhere. And this is going to push that down against whatever you're putting it on, what your napkin is on. And it's just kind of a really interesting way to get it sealed down there. All those little bristles are working together. We're not going to roller it or anything. And this is so great because when you've got texture underneath, I got bristles falling off. When you've got texture underneath, this is going to really, so I've got bristles coming out everywhere here. So once you feel like you've got it pretty well pressed down onto your canvas or whatever you're using, and if you see any little air bubbles, you might want to tap oh, I just almost had a problem there. Okay, so remember, this is basically like putting, tissue paper or a Kleenex down. And so when it gets moisture, it can start to kind of disintegrate. And I mean, it's going to lose its shape and it's not going to be, worth anything. So, so make sure that you're kind of careful. That's kind of why, we're tapping like this. Okay, so now once you get that down there and it looks like you've, got all the air bubbles or whatever, and it looks like I've got another little bristle. That brush, and I don't know if I can get that off without ruining my paper. So now what you're going to do is you're just going to go ahead and put another layer down on here. Just be real careful as you put it down so that you can cover it. And I wish I had gotten out a bigger brush. But this one's okay. It really was the only one I had that I didn't care if it got messed up. So just put it down, and then when you've got it all covered, just kind of make one other pass through it to remove, you know, some excess, because you don't want it to just take forever to dry. And then after it dries, you can just take like a little sanding block or a tiny piece of sandpaper. You could even take an emery board, a nail file, and then all you're going to do is cover or go around the edge, and that paper around the edge will come completely off. Then it will look like this is just part of this canvas. It's going to look like it was just on there. So then just kind of take your brush and smooth it off so you can take off, you know, if you've got a lot of excess. Just kind of smooth over. Doesn't look like I got enough on there. Oh, doesn't look like I got hardly any right here. Just so you've got, you know, good coverage. And it doesn't have to be on real thick. That's why when you go over it this last time, you're kind of pulling some of it off so that it will dry. And that's all there is to it. And then once Mod Podge dries, it's going to be clear. And that's it. And so once that's dry, and you can take off these edges. So this isn't going to be dry right yet, but you can tell. I mean, it's going to, see how it will just start to come off. And so when you go around there with like a sanding block or something, it will just come off so easy. And so that's all that we're going to do for that right now. And because there's a million things that you could do with this when it's finished to decorate it. I mean, if you want to, once you take the edges off, you can be done. And it would be real cute to use with something like we made with little wooden blocks for a tiny little display. That would be kind of cute. And you might put some ribbon around it, tie a bow. This has tiny butterflies on it. You might add a butterfly. There's, you know, and so many of you who are crafters, you have got supplies galore, and you have all kinds of things that you can go ahead and use for this. So that's all today, that technique. And so I want you to let me know if you try this and share a picture with us of something that you've made with this technique. And I hope you have a great day. Hang on one second, let me get back here. So I hope that you have a great day. Try this out, and if you do, let us know. And remember, when you say My Artful Adventures, you should be talking about yourself. So that's it for today. Bye-bye. Okay, so I said I wasn't going to finish this project, but I can't help myself. And there were a couple things that happened. So, yeah, I really didn't have everything that I needed. So I forgot to bring a dryer, so I couldn't finish drying it for you. I didn't have anything to sand off the edges, so I couldn't show you that. And so I really didn't have anything to finish it off with in the first place. So, okay, this time I have a couple things, and I'm going to finish it, and I actually have something to go around the outer edge of it so that you can see what it would look like, just give you a quick idea. So let's get back to finish up our little napkin art project. After the project was dry, I came back to record finishing it up, and when I replayed it, I found out that the sound quality was just terrible because I think I had two microphones that were turned on and recording at the same time. I didn't even know I could do that, so that was a surprise, and I'll have to watch out for that next time. So I'm having to do a voiceover for this. But what you do is, after it's dried, you want to take something that you can sand off the edges. Take a little file, take a sanding block, a little piece of sandpaper, whatever you've got that's got some grit to it like that. I'm sure even an emery board would work for this. And you just take it along the very edge, and as you do it, you will file that edge off and separate the paper so that then you can just remove that excess that was the overhang that you did not have on the top of your canvas.
So as you go around, it's like the longer that you go ahead and work on sanding, it will actually completely um, remove that paper along the edge where you're sanding it off, and it will just begin to release, and you don't even hardly have to pick any of it off because it will completely separate. And as you can see, it's just, it's just taking some time to go around the edges. But the longer that you sand it, the easier it is to just completely peel it off. And we're almost done here peeling this all off. It takes just a bit of time. Almost done. Now, when you're done with that, you could just leave it like this if you wanted to. There's nothing wrong with just leaving it as is. You could paint around the side if you wanted to. You could go ahead and put some ribbon. I found some cute ribbon. I've got some black and white ribbon that I had on hand, and I decided to just run it around the outside edge and then just tie it up at the top. So I just take a length of ribbon and decide how long to run it around the entire length so that I've got enough to tie a bow on the top. And it was just a simple bow, and I just left it at that, and that was done. So we just call that complete, and I've got this simple little art project that I've made using a paper napkin for the art on this project. And I thought I was pretty happy with it. I hope you'll give this a try and see what you can put your napkin art on, and let us know. I'd love to find out what you have used this technique on. So thanks for stopping by. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.